The world of boxing is desperate to see an undisputed heavyweight bout. The heavyweight runs boxing. When the heavyweight division is doing well, boxing is doing well. And since the heavyweight division has been in a coma, this is why we're talking about boxing is not where it used to be.
Is it that there just isn't somebody who's that type of personality, the Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, who's really carrying the flag for the sport?
That too, and the torch has to be passed, in which the torch wasn't passed.
When I was a kid, I don't remember seeing a bunch of boxing posters around. I didn't have to be told that Mike Tyson was fighting. It was an event everybody knew about. In baseball, what gets people excited is a home run. In boxing, it's the knockout, right? And you see less knockouts in boxing versus UFC. You've got guaranteed if you tune in to see at least one knockout.
All right, so everybody, welcome to the Joe Schmo Show. My name is Clint Webb. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mr. Dominic Battistella.
What's up, Clint?
And the man on the ones and twos, Mr. Dre Cameron himself.
What's up, y'all?
And today we're going to talk a little boxing. We haven't had a boxing episode yet, and we have the one and only Mr. Moonshine, Mr. Eddie, with us from New York to talk a little boxing. He runs a YouTube channel called Punch Drunk Boxing. That is Punsh. Drunk Boxing. Go subscribe and click that little bell so you know every time he's online and doing a new show. So before we get into anything, Eddie, how's things, man?
I'm doing great. How about y'all? I'm doing very great. Working on the grind.
Yeah,
I'm good.
You got a podcast as well, right? What's the name of that?
The Smelling Salt Podcast.
Smelling
Salt
Salt
like
Podcast. You need the smelling salts after you get punch drunk. Is that correct?
You're damn right.
Smelling Salt Podcast. That's awesome, man. I actually listened to a podcast a couple days ago, just a random few guys, and they actually took Smelling Salts on the show, and so that was super duper interesting. Yeah, they were fully conscious and taking that. I've never had them, man. I've never experienced that rush that I hear that you get from that. So anyway, man, we have you on here to talk a little boxing today, man.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Because I think Dre's the only one here that actually has boxing knowledge,
and
right?
it's still limited, so it's not like it's not much.
So is it true that MMA is taking over? That's what it is.
That's really. I mean, that's the question right now, though. Where is the state of boxing really?
I mean, the state of boxing is not where it used to be back in the day.
Wasn't it like the sport of kings, right?
80s was like probably the number one or number two sport in America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I just think that it had its fall off. Fighters wasn't challenging themselves. They wasn't fighting the best on a consistent basis. And promoters nowadays, they just don't promote. They don't promote like they used to. You don't see no posters. You don't see them promote anymore.
Well, no more Don Kings in the industry.
I mean, he's still there, but he's just not the Don King like in the past. You still got Bob Arum. He's still one of the most prestige promoters in the sport of boxing. But he's old. He's already going to be 90 years old.
Ooh.
You got Eddie Hearn from the UK. You got PBC Al Heyman. You got players, but I think that boxing has changed in the promotional aspect. I think they're still trying to promote like dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, hence the Tyson and Holyfield fights that have been recently, right?
Well, it seems to me that all the fights are on pay-per-view, right? It doesn't seem all that accessible. Where can we watch a fight that you don't have to pay $70, $80 for?
Well, ESPN, they held a great card last weekend with Oscar Valdez and Miguel Burchett. I mean, that was one
Speaking
of the
guy needs some smelling salts, right? That was a hell of a knockout.
Yeah, that was. So it was free TV. It was ESPN.
Yeah.
At the same time, it was Adrian Broner was performing in Showtime at the same time, and then the Zone had their telecast in the UK with Josh Kelly, the Zone app. So I think it's accessible. I think the Zone has a good membership. You pay, I think, $20 a month, but then if you get the year deal, it's $100 a year.
So is Josh Kelly going to save heavyweight boxing, man?
Nah, Josh Kelly is welterweight. But
he's welterweight.
Yeah, he's upcoming, but the Zone got Canelo Alvarez. He's going to be performing this Saturday versus Yeardrum. So the Zone got Ryan Garcia, Canelo, Anthony Joshua.
Oh, Anthony Joshua. That's who I was thinking of. Sorry, Anthony Joshua. Okay.
And then ESPN got Terrence Crawford, Tyson Fury, Teofimo Lopez that just beat Vasily Lomachenko. They were Top Rank. So Top Rank, that promotional company, has signed their network deals with ESPN. Matchroom Boxing and Golden Boy Promotion has their deal with the Zone, and then Showtime and Fox has their deal with PBC. So there's fighters on different streets, which make it very impossible to get these type of fights.
Do you think the difference now between 30, 40 years ago is that Dana White has proven to be one hell of a promoter and has basically turned the UFC into the primary organization for mixed martial arts fighting, but there's so many different organizations with boxing, it's kind of hard to tell. There's 17 welterweight champions, and it's hard to tell who's good, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. So you really got to just follow boxing and really try to identify what's real and what's not, or what's hype, or what the promotional company is hyping, or the network.
Sure.
So it's really just trying to understand. Of course, there's too many belts. Fans are frustrated with the belts.
Yeah, I was about to ask, man. Can you tell us can you differentiate? I guess the WBA, WBO, and WBC. Like, what's the difference?
IBC, IBF. Like,
Well, there's the four major world titles that recognize each other is the WBC, which is the green belt.
Right, it's the one that Tyson Fury holds in heavyweight.
Yeah,
Okay.
Tyson Fury holds that,
Okay.
and the WBA, the WBO, and IBF.
IBF.
Those are the major. Those are the major belt federation. There is the IBO, but it's not considered major.
Why is that?
It's whatever, they in business, whatever one's recognized. The four recognize each other. So I say there's an undisputed. If the WBC recognizes the WBA champion and WBO all together, but they won't recognize the IBO, which is not a major world title.
Well, right now you got two different heavyweight champions, right?
Yeah, you got Anthony Joshua, who holds all the belts except the
WBO,
WBC.
right? So the WBC is the only one Tyson Fury holds, and that's the one he won when he beat Deontay Wilder. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was a
beat
year
Deontay
ago.
Wilder.
That's why you did that show today, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, and they're doing a rematch, right?
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of drama, a lot of
Somebody ducking somebody.
there's been a lot of drama concerning that trilogy. Well, the world of boxing is desperate to see an undisputed heavyweight bout.
Sure.
The heavyweight runs boxing. When the heavyweight division is doing well, boxing is doing well. And since the heavyweight division has been in a coma, this is why we're talking about damn, boxing is not where it used to be.
So tell me, when did that end? Did that end with Tyson and Holyfield? Did that end a little bit after that?
I think probably with Lennox Lewis, I think it died down.
Okay.
It died down. And then, you know how every sport's got their evolution?
Of course.
Their aestheticism.
Sure.
Boxing really doesn't have that evolution where you can't compare dynamic freak of nature Mike Tyson to nobody.
Well, no, but if you look at the UFC, the heavyweight is not even close to the premier division. It's really the light heavyweight and lower, and that's where all the action is.
We'll see. Triple G.
Right, and when you look at even the boxers that have come out in the last 20 years that have been huge names like Floyd Mayweather, they haven't been heavyweights, but they're household names. Everybody knows who they are. They
Flashy.
command $100 million fights, that sort of thing. So maybe is it that there just isn't somebody who's that type of personality, the kind of Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, who's really carrying the flag for the sport?
That too. And also certain sports, the torch has to be passed in which the torch wasn't passed. I mean,
Sure.
Manny Pacquiao beat Keith one time Thurman. Keith was supposed to beat Manny Pacquiao, but lost him. He's 41 years old and lost to Manny Pacquiao.
Sure.
And then Floyd Mayweather, he never lost. So there was never a transition. There was never a passing of the torch for the next era. So now the people are still stuck on Manny Pacquiao. They're still stuck on when Floyd Mayweather is going to return. But there is Canelo Alvarez. He's a cash cow of boxing. There's Anthony Joshua. There is Tyson Fury. There is a lot of champions. It's not as household name like it was before because the promotion is kind of different now. They're not promoting the fighters, but there's a lot of great champions. There's a lot of great fighters, a lot of great young fighters. Women boxing, I think, in my opinion, is better than ever.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it seems to me that when I was a kid, I don't remember seeing a bunch of boxing posters around. I didn't have to be told that Mike Tyson was fighting. It was, it was an event everybody knew about. So is there something having to do with the fact that maybe more on a local level, boxing hasn't been promoted, getting people out to see fights where they can actually go and experience the sport as opposed to only seeing it via the television? So there's like a kind of a disconnect between the fan and the athletes in the sport, where it used to be you could go see local fights. There's local gyms, and they're out promoting their fighters, and because of that, the sport grows because it's got to grow from the ground up, right?
Yeah, I think with boxing, I was talking about this earlier, that boxing is not bringing in new fans. Let's
Yeah.
say, for example, I
Yeah.
check the analytics, let's say on my YouTube channel and other contemporaries that they have their YouTube channels, and you just can see the analytics is like 20, 30 years old and up. Like there is no really teens watching boxing.
Yeah.
There. Not even young adults, 20.
Sure.
So
I mean, we're sitting here with 340 somethings. They're all going like, I don't know much about boxing, and that's coming up through an era where, you know, I remember when I was a kid, Sugar Ray Leonard was still fighting. I grew up in
George Foreman
in Hampton Roads in Virginia Beach, and you know we had Sweet Pea Whitaker. I mean, that guy was a badass. You know, what happened to boxers coming out of the Olympics, getting a gold medal, and then rolling right into a pro career where they just take off?
Can I piggyback on that before you answer that? Is that Shakur Stevenson? I know he's going to be in the Olympics, right?
yeah, he was in the Olympics.
Right, so
wasn't
he seems to be that next guy. Like, speaking of
he's-
what Dominic was saying, like coming off the Olympics and building a career and building hype. I mean, he's a young, exciting guy. I mean, I even know who he is. As you know, I don't follow boxing, so this is like I know who this kid is. He seems to be very excitable. He seems to be dynamic in the ring, and he's undefeated, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's undefeated. He's still young, and he came from the Olympics. I mean, even the Olympics, like for Oscar De La Hoya was in the Olympics, Andre Ward, Muhammad Ali, it used to be a big thing. I think if you ask any Olympian back then, what do they cater more? What they're proud of achieving in achievement wise, gold medal or world title? They'll say a gold medal because
medal, right.
So many titles in professional boxing that a gold medal was everything.
Well, what do you think
But-
the Olympics are going to do this year? What do you think they're going to do for boxing this year?
I think they canceled. I mean, we had our number one amateur. His name was Keyshawn Davis, and he was supposed to. He was the guy that's going to bring the gold medal to the U.S. But since the pandemic hit, and we don't know when the Olympics was going to come through fruition, now he turned pro. Now he's going to be making his pro debut this Saturday.
Right.
So
Yeah, you can't sit in the amateurs forever. You got to make that money while you still got a head on your shoulders.
well, is there?
Exactly. In America, they're not sponsoring the amateurs like they used to be as well.
Okay, so
Right.
what's the difference in the U.S. having professional basketball players play, but they can't have professional boxers box? Is that more of a choice or is that a rule?
Okay.
And if you turn pro in boxing, are you allowed to box in the Olympics?
They just passed that.
Oh, they
do it.
did.
So he could technically still box in the Olympics.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they won't do it, especially
Because it's not for money.
Why-
it's just
why
for
would you?
glory.
Why would-
exactly.
Okay.
In the UK, across the pond, a lot of fighters, they'll stay in the amateur circuit for a long time. They'll hit their 30s in the amateur circuit because out there they sponsor the Russian, Ukraine. They sponsor their amateur fighters. In America, they don't do that no more. And once they have taken the headgear off, why are you going to get punched in the head for free?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's for your country, but
Well,
I mean,
well, here's
it's a little different than playing basketball.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. The difference. With basketball, you saw a situation where Paul George got hurt in the Olympics, and that caused big to do with the professionals going out there and playing. But at least those guys are under contract, and it's not going to impact their money.
That's true.
Yeah.
Whereas a fighter, even if he doesn't actually get hurt, if he takes a bad loss, that's going to impact his bottom line. You go out there and you lose a bout that you're not supposed to in the Olympics. Why would you take that risk when you go in training and have a 30, 40, $50 million payday? The gold medal does not mean that much, I would think, to a lot of these guys, especially coming from where a lot of boxers come from, where you don't see a lot of boxers coming from upper class families. They're not getting their heads punched in, you know.
It's a poor man's sport.
It is. And that's another issue is you look at what boxing is and the type of sport that it is, the types of injuries that you come away with, what it says about the culture, not of boxing, but of our culture, that we're willing to allow a certain category of people to go into a sport where we know what the outcome is. Eventually, you're getting knocked out, unless you're Mayweather and you just can't be touched. But you're going to get injured. It's the same thing with the military. You don't see a bunch of millionaires and billionaires sending their kids off to fight in a war.
Fighters like, let's say, for example, not to throw no shades of Floyd Mayweather because he's one of the best ever, at least him up.
Yeah.
But his style of fighting, even though that he had so many eyes on boxing, his style of fighting wasn't fan friendly.
No.
So there was just a lot of people was paying for him to see him lose, but
True.
then it wasn't fan friendly. You know, the fight of the century was supposed to be Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. We could all agree, man. They took us to the bank.
Yeah.
So I think that right there,
Yeah.
I really think that that boxing was in a dark place, because right after that Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather fight, we was like, what's next? That was 2015. Heavyweight still
Man,
haven't
that
really
long ago?
emerged.
Yeah. It seems like just yesterday.
Yeah,
but
it does not seem like that's long ago.
Well, I think what gets people excited in baseball, what gets people excited is a home run. In boxing and
Chicks
other
take the long ball.
combat sorts, it's
the knockout.
The knockout, right? And you see less knockouts in boxing because it's more technical. It's point scored, and there's longer bouts, right? You've got more rounds to get through versus UFC. You've got 3 5-minute rounds, and if you don't end it, it's 50-50, right?
Yeah.
So you're gonna see a lot more knockouts and submissions. So and even if you don't see one every single fight, you're guaranteed, if you tune in, to see at least one knockout. I think that's where the
or some blood on the
attraction
mat.
is. Yeah, there's gonna be some blood on the mat for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, in boxing, I'm gonna say, like, let's say this past Saturday, there was a lot of stoppage. There was an incredible knockout.
Boy,
Hey,
yeah,
that
it
was
was
a
there.
crazy knockout.
We
He
thought
just caught it on
would,
the chin.
Flatline though.
Yeah.
I do think there is great boxing. I just don't think that mass media covers the sport of boxing. And I give you an example.
They don't.
Max Kellerman. He was the boxing guy.
Yeah.
Right? So once I thought that he was gonna he was gonna be the co-host to Stephen A. Smith First Take. That's one.
They don't talk about it.
Show. Yeah, I would have thought that's it. Max Kellerman is on the show. He's gonna be talking about boxing. Let's go, Max.
You
And
rarely
I feel like he
hear him
abandoned
speak on it.
boxing.
But Max doesn't get to pick the subjects. The producers pick the topics that they talk about, and they talk about the topics that are going to get eyeballs on the screen. And unfortunately, right now, that's not boxing. I would think some smart promoters would get out there and they would start putting out. I know there's best knockout videos, but you only see that clip. If you could put together a weekly show where you get an hour on ESPN or something like that, and you show the best bouts of the week or the best rounds of the week, that would start to increase the interest, so people would be interested in watching full-length matches, right? Just get them back into it. Give them a taste. Give them something that's sweet.
That's
that
a good
they can
idea,
get accustomed to, and then start rolling into, okay, now that we've got the interest, we're going to start teaching them about the sport so that they really appreciate it instead of just going in and trying to get the sweet stuff, right?
I think that the big fights. Look, if you got the best fight and the best, you're going to see an ultimate chess match. You're probably not going to see what you saw this past Saturday. So
be more strategic.
Seeing Canelo Alvarez versus Triple G, but it's very, very technical.
Yes.
For a boxing head, for hardcore boxing, you appreciate the technical side of things, but
Yeah.
you're seeing action, right? And then, like we explained earlier about the Mayweather and Pacquiao, we ain't seen enough action. But those are the fights that the fans and casuals wanted to see, which really didn't. They wasn't thinking about, I gotta watch boxing.
I mean, they were thinking about probably the arrogance of which Floyd Mayweather presents himself and wanting to see him get knocked out.
And then you got Pacquiao as the people's champion.
Yeah,
so people
right.
want to. That generates the interest, but it doesn't
does.
actually end up being a good fight. And like you were talking about, the boxing heads want to see that highly technical matchup. Clint and I were having a conversation the other day about what constitutes a good baseball game, right? He's always down for a 1-0 pitching duel that's just amazing, right? But the casual baseball fan looks at that and goes, "That was a boring ass game."
Chicks take the long ball, bro. Chicks take the long ball.
Exactly.
Where's the steroids, man? Let's take it back to 1996.
Hey, look. We just did a PED show, man. You need to listen to
we did a 2-part PED show. It was very interesting.
Daniel Tosh said something. Daniel Tosh, the comedian, man. He said he likes his athletes like he likes his video games.
Yeah, he's got HD
right?
TV. Let's go.
And so let's make it happen. I mean, if it's a level playing field, it's a level playing field, man.
I hate to get you off boxing right now, but since we brought up the topic of athletes like video games, you're big into wrestling too. And I mean, I think we all grew up as wrestling fans down here. We're in the South. We're in North Carolina, man. We're in the home of the the
That's right, Ric Flair. That's right.
Man, I love
From
me
Charlotte.
some Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He's the all-time
Wasn't he the
champ. I
people's
don't
champ,
care.
too?
Oh,
Yeah,
he won the people's champ. He was the nature boy.
I didn't like him.
Saw my pound for y'all saw my pound for pound list.
Yeah. We were looking at that earlier, man.
Best. I think the best bout I ever saw was that Starrcade match. I think it was Ric Flair versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. That was off the chain. But that's back when you could air a wrestling match that would go 50, 60 minutes. Now it's like 5 minutes and somebody busts in with the chair or something.
And like you said, the acting was better back then.
You can't bleed.
Yeah, man.
Nah, that was that was Ric Flair's whole thing. Is he was hot on the mic and he was willing to cut.
There's no more mankinds in wrestling, man.
No.
You know what I mean?
I mean, that's why I think I stopped watching because, of course, you can't go from the Attitude Era and go backwards.
Nah.
Exactly.
It gotta stay there. Or it gotta...
The last good one stuff to me, man, was Stone Cold and The Rock.
Yeah, that's the Attitude Era, right?
And and Triple H is still wrestling. What's he, 73 years old?
Yeah, but who wants to watch Triple H wrestle Roman Reigns?
Nobody.
Come on.
Yeah. I like the Nitro and Monday Night Raw.
Oh, yeah, man.
You had to flick the channel.
Yeah, bro.
That's right.
Man.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to have wrestling parties for like my birthdays and stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean, we would get the pay-per-views and whatnot, and we'd be watching, as I was telling you earlier, man, before we got on the air, man, them Superfly Jimmy Snuka, man, coming off the top rope.
Wrestler.
And, you know, I mean, it's just like.
That was before you were born.
No, bro. His daddy was. But I used to absolutely love wrestling, man. Tag team was probably my favorite wrestling, and love Rock and Roll Express, love the Road Warriors. You know, those are some of my favorites.
You ever gone to a wrestling match?
No, I've actually never been to one in
Yes,
person.
I've been to two. I got to touch Andre the
Leave it to
Giant.
these guys.
I've been to a lot.
For real.
I'm talking about the real Andre the Giant.
The real Andre the
Yeah,
Giant.
I got to touch him, man.
He's big as shit.
My first one was, I think it was 1992, the SummerSlam in Madison Square Garden.
Okay.
Bret Hart versus Mr. Perfect.
Oh, Mr. Perfect. Oh, man.
When the Intercontinental
For the belt.
Yeah.
Who performed there too? I think it was Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan.
Man, Ultimate Warrior, you
Slaughter.
couldn't mess with Ultimate Warrior, man.
Man, I think the first one
Bringing
I went
back
to
some
was
memories,
like
Eddie.
'84, right?
You're old,
I went
Dom.
to I know I'm old, but I went to see NWA even before it was WCW in the scope, and the main event was Ric Flair, and he was taking on what's his name from Rock and Roll Express. Also, there was a Russian sickle and cowbell match. It was the Koloff brothers versus Magnum TA and Dusty Rhodes. That lasted about 45 minutes. That was a great match. There was a lot of bleeding in that, but yeah, I mean, that was a completely different era.
Well, when I was reading off your list to Dre, he got really excited when I mentioned that Chris Benoit fight.
Oh,
that you saw.
man. Oh.
Yeah, you can't beat the Crippler, man. He was a ring technician,
series.
man.
Yeah, that one.
I mean,
Man, with him and Booker T?
Yeah.
I think
I know they be reluctant to talk about it, and that's so sad. And for me, I think it does a disservice to Booker T because they don't want to bring Chris Benoit's name up. But you can't erase that from this.
Nah,
thing.
Exactly.
that's a great man. He was.
I agree.
Nobody talks about him as the greatest ring technician. I think people always mention
Who,
Bret
Chris
Hart,
Benoit?
but I think Benoit had Bret Hart beat.
Well, he was like 5'6", wasn't he?
you-
Wasn't
I
Benoit
think so.
small?
That was a
Yeah, he
good
was.
matchup too.
Yeah, I think he was small though, so it made him had to think a little bit more.
Well, I think that,
Well, as
a
big as
lot
he's
of it is all the blows he took to his forehead,
That's
jumping
true.
off that top rope, doing that flying headbutt. That'll mess your mind up.
It was the flow. It was like they knew each other's chemistry. Like they wasn't talking. Now you see they so robotic.
Yeah,
nowadays.
man.
So
Yeah.
robotic. You can hear them talking to each other now.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
And like I said back then, I mean, when they jump to the camera, they look like they meant it. You know what I mean? These days,
They did mean it,
so,
man.
They're so fake.
Hey,
man.
have you ever
can tell it?
have you ever met any of these old wrestlers out in the wild? Right?
Yeah, I met the Iron Sheik at the airport one day. And he was exactly like he was in the ring.
Well, I mean,
Exactly.
I used to run into Ric Flair all the time. I lived down in Charlotte for like 17 years, and he would come by. I mean, I was a
Would he
chef.
slap you on the chest?
No.
Oh, okay.
So he would come by this restaurant that I used to work at, and we had one of those open kitchen lines, and he'd come walking down. As soon as we see him, everybody pop up from there. Yeah, woo! Right, exactly. And he turned around in the middle of a fine dining restaurant, look back at us, and go, woo! And walk off like, yeah, that's it, champ, right? But Ric Flair is Ric Flair. Hulk Hogan is Hulk Hogan.
Man.
He's not.
Yeah, he is, brother. Yes, he
Terry,
is.
whatever the hell, Cruz or whatever.
Well, do you think that it goes
not
back to the
that.
same kind of promoting thing? Because I mean, you had look at the guys that they had with them in wrestling back then. You know, like Jim
Cornette.
Yeah, is that the Undertaker's kid? The Undertaker's dude?
No, he was Midnight Express.
Who was the Undertaker's guy? The Paul Bearer.
Paul Bearer, Bearer. Yep.
Man, like you don't have people like that anymore.
They can't cut a promo like
Nah,
they used to. And it's almost like boxing.
Yeah,
they can't
that's
cut a promo.
so going back to boxing real quick, if we can pivot, I wanted to ask you a question. How do you get it back? If you put on your promoter hat.
Say it again.
Put on your promoter hat.
How I get it back is by actually promoting.
Like how?
They don't promote at all.
Do you go after the young kids? Do you go after a certain demographic? Do you go after everybody?
I think I go after I go after everybody. There's certain fighters that you could market them. Let's say like Ryan Garcia.
Okay.
You know Ryan Garcia already tapping into not even just casuals, people that don't give a damn about boxing.
Yeah.
He got a lot of numbers. His social media is up. So he got girls. He got promote him like Oscar de la Hoya.
Right. Okay.
Promote him like a sex symbol.
You gotta, and you
I
also
got
gotta
a
let
question.
them. You gotta let them pop off at the mouth too.
Yes.
You know, nobody wants to let anybody talk.
No, look at Floyd.
Yeah.
Exactly, and they do. And let's say, for example, he's getting a lot of critique because he know how to promote himself to the point where he might have a fight with Manny Pacquiao, and people's like, why you gonna give this young buck a fight? But he's generating this type of interest, because he's promoting himself. He's IG, and his IG is popping, and then you got Teofimo Lopez. Also, that every time he wins a fight, he's doing a Fortnite type dance.
joke.
Like I used to coach my son's basketball team,
Sure.
and they know Teofimo Lopez just because he dances after the fight.
So
You know?
is this YouTube stuff any good for boxing, you think?
YouTube is what keeps boxing alive, to be honest.
Yeah. So
Because
what about this kid though? What's this kid? This kid that just challenged Mayweather, right? Who is that? Logan Paul or
Jake Paul.
Jake Paul.
Jake Paul.
So do you think that's good for boxing? Like people like that are
people
YouTube
are gonna
celebrities?
They're gonna tune in to watch that guy get knocked.
Right.
I tell you this. It's not good, in my opinion, but I feel like it could light a fire under these other guys to know how to promote.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want him, but look at what this guy's doing.
Yeah,
There's gonna
I mean,
be a
he's
bunch
gonna
of
get $100
YouTubers.
million fight.
Yeah, he is.
Right, and he's been doing it for like 5 minutes. He doesn't really have any skill. Yeah, sure, he knocked out Nate Robinson, but I mean, who the hell is Nate Robinson?
He's 5'4"
No,
and
no,
he's a
no,
basketball player.
No, he's a basketball player,
Right.
not a boxer.
And
So
that was a
you got
bad knockout, too.
It was a bad knockout.
You got bad boxing, and you see these guys going out there and making a ton of money, and these other guys who are like actually skilled, they're actual boxers professionally, they're not making a dime. They've got to be looking at their promoters like, what? Why am I paying you? So
No, exactly. So then you'll get to a guy like Terrence Bud Crawford who doesn't promote himself, but he's actually considered pound for pound number 1, 2, 3. You can flip it around.
Really?
Terrence Bud Crawford, but he doesn't promote. He don't say nothing.
So he's not getting any fights.
But then it's like, let's say I used to be on like, come on, man, you got to be out there and promote. Got to be out there and promote. But the promotion is getting 30% of his money of his purse.
Sure.
So what is the promotion doing? What is Bob Arum doing? Right now, Bob Arum, that is his promoter, is actually devaluing him.
Yeah.
I'm not messing with him no more. Like, he's so just boisterous.
Why is that? Because he's not flamboyant enough?
He says, I'm losing money promoting Terrence Bud Crawford, and I don't want to deal with him anymore.
That's interesting.
So cut him loose. Let him
that's your
promote
promoter.
himself.
Let him do it. Let you do it. Shit, Eddie. I'm like, let's start a petition, bro.
When do you start to take on some clients?
That's
man?
right.
Oh, see, and that's another thing. And the question that you asked me, what would I do? I would actually hire people that know the sport of boxing, that love the sport of boxing, that would like to cover the sport of boxing.
It seems to me that a lot of the promoters, you're talking about these guys, and they've been around for 1,000 years. They're all old as fuck. They don't know really how to operate in the social media world. Things have passed them by. They're not playing a long game, right? They're thinking very transactionally. This athlete is going to, I spend this much money to promote them, I get this much rate of return versus this other athlete, even though this athlete over here may be better in the long run for the sport and is going to create better fights. But to get somebody younger, somebody like yourself who knows boxing, that's excited about boxing, that wants to get boxing out into the mainstream, to play a long game and go, you know what, I might not make a ton of money promoting this guy, but by promoting this guy, I'm going to grow the sport. So I'm going to have 10 other clients because I promoted this guy, and now I'm going to be able to promote them, and I'm going to make money off of them, and so on and so forth, and grow your client base and get other people into the sport like yourself who are also going to be great promoters because they're excited about it. They're young. They see the vision, the long-term goal of growing the sport and making more money for themselves and their clients. How do you kind of move these guys off into the, into the glue factory, as it were?
Hey, like I said, Bob Arum is 90 years old and still working. He
Well,
ain't
of
trying to-
course.
And he's
Of course
taking
he is.
30%. Like, is that
30%.
normal? Like, is that the normal going rate?
Oh man, the contracts in boxing. Look,
Yeah.
you know, I think if you follow sports, especially boxing, of course, like I said, it's a poor man's sport. So you
You
get
can
these
exploit.
fighters like from Dominican Republic or
They're just happy with some money.
Philippines. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people, a lot of fighters take advance money.
All right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we
by the
so
time
we
they
need to
actually
get you
fight,
to take 15% and start promoting these guys.
The manager, well, put it this way: the manager is going to take 20%.
Nuts.
Yeah.
The trainer's going to get 10%.
Yep.
The promotion is going to get 30%.
Mm. So
Now
they
the
get what?
taxes,
Yeah,
Yeah.
40%.
Not yet. Now
Yeah.
you got the taxes.
Yeah,
You got your
at 40% is what I'm saying. Taxes at 40%
yeah.
of what's left.
So,
you know?
so if we're trying to get interest back into boxing, why can't we introduce boxing into school?
Inconceivable.
No
man,
way.
That's
Not with
Wait a minute,
CTE being what it is.
But hold on. So,
What
why wouldn't it be illegal for your 15-year-old to go to a gym and train? Then he's still a 15-year-old. I don't understand the difference.
It's
There's
schools
headgear
and
Schools
private
there's a-
training.
the school.
He
doesn't-
still has to go to school. What's the
Yeah.
difference? You see what I'm saying? The kid is still 15. It doesn't matter whether he's going to that school or if he's going to another gym
Probably-
to do
probably
it and
for
then
the
going to school. He's still the
liability.
same age.
Probably
So
for
why
the same
couldn't we
reason.
introduce boxing into your middle school or your high school when you have headgear and you have all this other protection? Why can you not introduce this into school? Have a 5-man team, have a 6-man team.
That could be too, but even with all sports, even in football, like we're talking about the safety. Everybody.
That's what I'm saying. So
Safety.
why is there a problem with boxing?
Dre, what I think, man, is that I think you'd have to have somebody that was proficient in boxing, and that would require more budget to hire these people.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then you have to get all the equipment, and then you have to have them sign release forms, and you have to do all this other stuff that they still have to do when they
Release
play
forms for
football.
what?
They still have to do that when they play football.
So again,
Right.
what's the difference?
Well,
Private gyms, paying for it on the side.
Didn't they used to have a lot of boxing like YMCA's and things like that back in the day? That
don't know.
used to be part of their program. That's how people would get into it, and then they'd start
I'm
getting
not
go
sure.
from there into more professionalized gym environments.
Yeah, they're shutting down the programs.
Yeah.
A lot of programs. There's no programs out there anymore. Like nobody's investing in boxing. I mean, there's certain cities that call them a boxing city, like Las Vegas is boxing. There's a lot of people around
Philly.
the world from even Europe that they will move to the U.S. and just move to Vegas. Philadelphia is still a boxing town.
Yeah,
Of
course.
Cali is still a boxing town.
you know,
I mean, New York, you still, but it's not like it used to be. It's not like it used to be.
you know who was playing gyms before he passed away was Joe Frazier, man. I remember I was working up in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I remember him coming and opening up a gym while I was up there, and that was pretty neat. I actually got to sit down and have a dinner with him, talk about an interesting person, and he's probably the best storyteller I've ever met as a celebrity. Just talking about the days where he used to fight, Ali, and he still, I mean, to the day he died, he had a visceral hatred of Ali.
But also this, guys, that it is a poor man's sport, but it's not like back in the days. These other sports, you make a lot of money. Baseball, you make a lot of money.
Yes, you
Basketball,
do.
you make a lot of money. And boxing, it's like, why risk your life with this?
Because you don't make money until you're a big name.
You don't, exactly.
Well-
You don't make money until you're that top.
Do you think they could cross over into UFC or MMA just to expand? Not like permanently, but like could they do boxing and UFC or boxing and MMA to get that
Well, that's-
cross promotion?
That's what women are. That's what the women boxers are doing.
Okay.
Like Amanda Serrano.
Oh yeah, she's
just
awesome.
because she's not getting paid enough in boxing, she needs to make her ends meet and go to the UFC.
Okay.
So I think women are usually doing that. You see Clarissa Shields, she was gonna go to the UFC.
Yeah.
You know, so you got what's
She was the Olympic.
Holmes.
Yeah,
that beat-
Heidi
what was it?
Holmes.
She beat
Yeah.
that beat, Ronda
Rousey. Yeah, that was a good fight though.
But she's been a professional kickboxer for a long time
Yes.
too. So
Yeah.
she did that before coming into the UFC. So she's bouncing back and forth and has a pretty large skill set. I think part of the reason you're not seeing a lot of growth in the sport is because it used to be, as far as combat sports go, the only one that would end up with you potentially having a payday was boxing until UFC came along, until mixed martial arts came along and started to get big, and the money got big there, and you could get into it with a whole range of skill sets. It wasn't just if you were a good boxer, you compete in mixed martial arts, but if you were a great wrestler, you compete in mixed martial arts. If you were great at judo, you compete. So there was a larger funnel, as it were, for athletes to come into the sport, and so that competition has drained the talent pool that used to go into boxing
now
much more.
For the men, the UFC fighters or the MMA fighters would go to boxing because the money is in boxing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Y'all, so what boxing needs is Joe Rogan to start promoting it. That's what it sounds like.
Or they need Dana White.
Yeah,
or
Dana White.
Could you imagine if Dana White bought one of the major boxing organizations and started promoting that? I mean, he basically buy out everybody else in a matter of 10 years. I mean, that's just crazy when you have somebody who's like a Mark Cuban, the promoter owner who's really, really passionate about the sport, who from the top down really just drives the organization and centralizes it. And the idea that, again, with the UFC, what's different is that it's about the organization, not necessarily about the individual athletes. And with the boxing, it's the individual athletes that drive everything, and the organizations are less important. I mean, they sanction them, right? But beyond that, all right, it's this fight, but versus UFC, it's UFC number 789,000, right?
Right.
You know what the event is going to be.
Right.
I think boxing is a small fraternity in which
Sure.
Are they letting these new businessmen in the sport of boxing?
Right, so they're being.
He tried to do a Rock Nation, it failed.
Yeah.
Even Mike Tyson tried to do his promotion, it failed. Dana White tried to do it, it failed.
Oh,
So
wow.
you're saying they're being elitists a little.
Yeah. I think boxing is an old sport.
Right.
You know?
It's like
It has a
if
lot
you
of-
haven't been in, you're not going to get in right now. You're gonna have to wait for us to die out. Right.
Oh yeah. And I think it will change.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
no,
it's
it'll
gonna-
change. Just like the guys in baseball that were in the steroids era, when the guys that are voting on the Veterans Committee age out and die, Roger Clemens and Barry Bonds and Alex Rodriguez, they'll all get in the Hall of Fame. It's just a matter of time because it's a different generation. So if we can change over these generations, maybe we can get boxing back. Because I grew up I watched every time Tyson fought. I watched. I knew it was going to be a 30-second watch, but I watched it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And these fighters don't fight frequently.
Right. And one of the best knockouts I've ever seen non-Tyson was Christy Martin and Bethany Payne. And it was the undercard, one of the undercards to one of the Tyson Holyfield. I think it was Tyson Holyfield 2, if I'm not mistaken. And Christy Martin, I don't know if y'all seen this. I don't know if it's been a while since y'all seen this, but you should definitely look it up. She hit Bethany Payne something fierce and made her do a two-step in the ring. It was nasty. So
She's a promoter now.
Christy Martin, the coal miner's daughter, for women's boxing.
Nah, she's just a promoter.
Oh.
When you're a boxing promoter, you're just.
You're just a promoter for whatever, cool. So you don't go.
You got a license to promote.
That's pretty awesome.
You saying that about women fighting just brought up a thought. A lot of videos on YouTube that get millions and millions of hits are these videos of random fights, especially girls fighting. And I'm not talking about boxing matches. I'm talking about like actual fights. And what brings it is seeing a bloodlust, right? Almost.
Yes.
And it feels like you get that more in UFC. You get that with some of the action in wrestling, although with wrestling is what it is.
Right.
But with boxing, there doesn't seem that there's as much of that visceral bloodlust violence. Everything's become elevated in our society where you can click and get a snuff film.
It's that shot culture.
You can, exactly. And boxing hasn't. It's been a while since it brought it. You got it with Tyson because you knew that within 60 seconds you could see somebody get their head knocked off. Other than just having fights where you ban defense, right?
No hugging, fellas.
Exactly. How do you get to where you bring people back with the idea, not the idea, just the feeling that you're going to get the excitement of that bloodlust that people crave and are driven to when they go and watch combat sports.
Well, that's what I'm saying about evolution. So you got Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
Richest athlete ever.
Sure.
But look at his style.
Yeah.
So he's highly successful with his style.
Yeah.
So the crop of young fighters, who are they emulating?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the one who's getting
Floyd.
paid. Right.
You fight
Exactly.
this way.
That's right.
Exactly. You fight this way is the safest way, and also you're gonna get paid the most.
They're missing the personality.
So
though.
now you
Yeah,
got these
that's-
fighters. You got, for example, Shakur Stevenson,
Right.
which is he's highly.
He's
but
got
he
all
has
the
more like a
personality, too.
Floyd Weather type of.
Mm.
He got the personality, but he
Mhm.
got the style, but he's not a knockout artist.
Right.
Sure.
You know. So Shakur Stevenson, yeah, he's ringing bells, but not the type where I can't wait to see a Shakur
Mhm.
Stevenson fight, unless if you like the technical side of things, in which he's one of the phenoms in the sport of boxing that got that side. Now, Teofimo Lopez, he a guy that knocks people out. So certain people, and he beat Vasily Lomachenko, who was regarded probably the best technician in the world.
Mm.
And he upset at Vasily Lomachenko. So now people look at Teofimo Lopez, but at least he bringing the knockouts in the equation. So he's getting hype. So there is the fight last week was great. The fight
It was
last
fun to
week
watch.
It was great.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it was a
And-
lot
and
of fun to
people
watch.
thought that the guy that knocked him out, Oscar Valdez, they thought that was an upset. Everybody thought that he was gonna get knocked out.
Really?
Yeah.
That mean
when
it. Boy, he laid into that punch
Lumberjack
though.
is the knockout artist.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
he was the dangerous guy at 130.
Mm. Okay. All
You know,
right.
he was knocking everybody out. So they were like, no, it's no way that Oscar Valdez is gonna get away from Miguel Burchett's power. He proved everybody wrong. This
Yeah.
is why everybody is still talking about that fight, still talking about that performance.
It looked to me like
in
in the.
boxing.
Go ahead.
No, I'm saying in boxing, you get that greatness tag on you when you exceed the expectations and you match the expectation. You beat the odds,
So,
and he's done that.
well, how did you get into boxing?
I always loved boxing.
Yeah.
I always watched boxing, but I'm probably the only boxing head in my friends. I
mean,
think it's only one boxing head in each group.
Was there a
right?
particular match that you saw when you were young or something, or a family member that may have been in boxing that really at that point made you know I want to be a boxer?
Well, my pops used to watch boxing. I wanted to box, but I have so many like scars that my father was like, man, you cut easily. No, don't do that. So the first matchup that I could like recall and remember and talking smack to my pops was Julio Cesar Chavez versus Randall, the surgeon. So that was the first fight, but I used to like Pernell Whitaker. Well, my favorite fighters are Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr., and it was and Pretty Boy Floyd.
Oh yeah.
When Floyd actually was exciting to watch and was throwing his hands and knocking people out.
Yeah.
So, what did you think about that fight with Roy Jones and Mike Tyson?
I think it was good.
Yeah.
I think it was good for boxing because this, you know what it told us when boxing was like, oh no, boxing is not dying, but dying and selling pay-per-views, and it's not the same like it was before. Mike Tyson just showed everybody at 54 that it's not dead.
Yeah.
That the lack is not boxing. It's actually the fighters not wanting to really sell themselves or the promoter selling themselves. That they're
That's a really good point.
In an app.
That's a really good point because I mean, dude looks shredded, bro. Like,
I mean, he looked good to be that age.
I
That's
know.
for sure, man. He really looked good.
I might
He
watch.
sells an imagination. He sells
does.
an imagination. Like,
does.
wow.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
Mike Tyson. I mean, I pay to watch the guy eat a bowl of Fruit Loops.
Yeah.
So
well, he did have that one man show on Broadway. Did you ever go see that?
Oh yeah.
I watched it on Showtime. I wish I could have gone to see it live because that dude in that
still
coming
got
out
the
in that white
cartoon,
suit, boy, that was a hell of a thing. He's actually pretty funny, man. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed
Tyson,
it.
when he talks, everybody listens.
Well, I mean, how
Sure.
can
I
you
love
not?
that
Because
dude.
nobody else sounds like that guy. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
I still want Evan back on that podcast though.
yeah.
Evan
Yeah.
Britton.
Okay, who's that?
Remember, he got Hot Box. He got the podcast. Mike Tyson got the podcast on Hot Boxing.
Okay.
You remember the Evan Britton, his co-host?
No, I don't know this
Football player?
story.
If you was in tune with the podcast, I mean, I don't watch a lot of podcasts. That was like my favorite podcast.
Okay. I'll have to
It
look
was
that
more
up.
than just sports. It was enlightening and things like that.
Okay.
Evan
Right.
Britton was, and I'm like, damn, man. Hollywood stepped into that podcast and took over.
Man, okay. So I wanna ask you a couple like quick questions, right? So a little lightning round kind of thing. Okay. So we'll start off with wrestling. Give me your top 5. Which top 5
Wrestling?
favorite wrestlers of all time? Top 5 favorite.
Um,
Not the
Shawn-
best,
Shawn-
your favorite.
My friend, Shawn Michaels.
Mhm.
Shawn Michaels.
he's entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Booker
entertaining.
T. Shawn Michaels, Booker T. Eddie Guerrero.
Ooh.
Yeah, it is. I forgot about Eddie Guerrero.
How did you forget
I
about
don't
Eddie
know.
Guerrero?
I'm old, dumb.
Eddie Guerrero. Shit, this is hard because I like a lot of wrestlers. I'll put Macho Man because just
Oh, because I mean, how could you not have Macho Man?
He's great on the mic.
Yeah, he's showing up. That was another great promoter of himself.
He really
yes,
was.
yes.
Macho Man. And,
Got one more.
I like Randy Orton.
Randy
like
Orton.
Randy
You know
Orton.
what? You can't not like Randy Orton. I don't
Yeah,
think.
he's the meme,
Yeah,
right?
he definitely is.
He's
All right, so
the RKO.
favorite boxing movie ever?
Oh, it's always gonna be Rocky.
Which
I
one?
watch that forever.
Which one?
First
I
one.
need
it's
to-
gotta be the first
look, if
one,
I
right?
would watch Rocky 1, I gotta watch them all. Like
Yeah,
it's like a
I get
marathon.
that.
Like,
Well, Rocky.
but my favorite, I say 2.
The one with
Rocky
Clubber
2?
Lang,
No,
Clubber
that was
Lang.
three.
No. That was the
three.
first one he won the champion.
Yeah, that was 3.
Championship.
2
Now,
was
when
the
I was-
rematch.
What about Raging
When I
Bull?
was younger, it was 4. But then when
That's
you get
my
older,
favorite.
yeah, I liked it 4. But
Yeah.
when you get older, I started respecting the relationship that he had with Adrian.
Yeah, sure.
Like,
Yeah.
damn, like yo, that's
Yeah.
a relationship. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you. That's
love
what you
right there.
need
Yeah.
right here, right? As a boxer or boxing fan.
Yeah.
So what about Raging Bull?
Raging Bull was cool.
Yeah.
Raging
Okay.
Bull was cool.
I don't. You know what? I don't think I've ever seen that.
Raging Bull
I
was
know. I need to get up. All right, one more. Who would you in the history of boxing? Who would you never want to get hit by? You can say Mike Tyson, but that's kind of obvious.
Foreman.
Okay. Well, it's because he had a meaty ass hook.
That's 'cause his hands were as big as his head.
And he's what 6'6" or some shit. Like, dude was huge, right?
You can hit that dude as hard as you want, and you're not gonna put him down either.
Well,
That's the hard thing.
You know,
right?
I think Mike Tyson's just too obvious of an answer, right? So he's, I mean, that quote that Tyson has, that everybody has a plan to get punched in the mouth, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the most epic quotes I think in history, and I use it a lot in everyday life.
You know who I wouldn't want to get hit by?
Huh.
Chuck Liddell.
Oh yeah, sure.
Good God.
He was just crazy as hell. That's why I don't think you want to get hit by Chuck Liddell.
Nah.
Like, I mean, I would never ever, like, Tyson would definitely be on the top of that list for me, for sure.
And that's right now at 54.
That's an easy one.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying. It's too
Yeah.
easy. So we don't want to keep you forever, man. We want to be respectful of your time. I got to know a few things. Just actually tell us what 2021 holds. What should we be looking for? Give us some names. Maybe some fights that are already scheduled, or
All right, I got you. I'm gonna give you names.
Okay.
All right. Boxing got great momentum right now.
okay.
A lot of people gonna be like, boxing is not. Boxing has great momentum. Boxing is alive.
Good.
Next weekend, this weekend we got Canelo Alvarez, which is the cash cow of boxing, gonna fight Yeardrum.
All right.
On the undercard is gonna be the #1 amateur in America. Now he's turned pro. So it's Keyshawn Davis going to be in the undercard.
That's the one you were
He's gonna
talking
have his
about earlier.
Professional debut.
Okay.
The next week we have Clarissa Shields that's making her pay-per-view debut. Everybody go buy the pay-per-view,
Man,
support women
I
boxing.
love watching her box.
And then following the next weekend on the 13th is gonna be Chocolatito versus Estrada 2. That was like that's one of the most anticipating rematches in boxing.
Man, I wish I could sound like that when I said stuff like that. I would just.
That's gonna
butcher it, bro.
You're way too. You're
way too white to say
Yeah, I
that.
was about to say you're too Caucasian.
Very much.
That's gonna be
Here
in
too,
the
that's
zone. That's gonna be in the
Okay.
zone,
All right.
and probably arguably one of the greatest women boxer. She was she's been a champion for 11 years. She lost her undisputed reign last year versus Jessica McCaskill. So they're having that rematch on the same night.
Okay.
That's going to be the co-main event of Chocolatito Estrada. So that's a rematch for the undisputed welterweight for the woman, Jessica McCaskill versus Cecilia Breakers, the first lady.
Okay. All right.
And then we got also Virgil Ortiz welterweight. That's like a phenom at welterweight. Virgil Ortiz versus Maurice Hooker. That's a great step up. He's a knockout artist, so that he's fun to watch. Following up with that, we got Amanda Serrano, 7-division world champion. I call her the Manny Pacquiao.
That's the
of
UFC
women boxing.
UFC lady, right?
Yeah, she fought in MMA as well.
Oh, MMA. Okay.
She's gonna be performing NBC primetime.
Okay.
March 25th.
Okay.
March 25th. Let's say in women boxing, a lot of people critique women boxing. They don't see a lot of knockouts. She is the pound for pound queen, knockout artist.
Nice.
All right. So
Yeah.
what about Olympians?
Olympians,
Because it's coming up in July. Well,
Man,
as of now.
they all turning pro.
Yeah. So there's nobody.
To be honest, I mean, Keyshawn Davis, Kid Austin. I'm gonna be interviewing him on Thursday.
Nice.
They all dropping out.
Man,
you interviewing him on your YouTube channel?
Yeah.
That's what's up.
All right, we're gonna make sure if
it
you
live
guys
stream?
you guys want to see that interview, we're gonna drop the
we'll drop it in the show notes. But tell everybody, Eddie. Where can we find you, bro?
Well, hold on. Before,
all right, hold up.
Before that,
Apparently
I was just gonna ask. We hit everything on 2020, but the big dogs. Anything happening with the heavyweights in 2021?
Oh well, so they're talking about Tyson. I mean, Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury was they had a rematch clause for the trilogy.
Okay,
but they went over the expiring date. Deontay Wilder's people didn't reply back on I think the expiring date was December 4th.
So you're saying he sent him a contract and Deontay Wilder's people did not respond to it. So
they already had a contract,
right.
but then they had to honor the contract.
Right.
They didn't honor the contract, so
they were ducking.
So now Deontay Wilder has taken the Tyson Fury's team for arbitration to get that trilogy fight. But me as a boxing fan, a lot of people as a boxing fan, we want to see the undisputed heavyweight. We want to see Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua, which eventually I believe is going to happen. That's going to be big for boxing. Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury.
Aren't they both British?
Yeah.
Both
of them. So I do think that's going to come through fruition.
Any big American heavyweights? Anything going on there?
You got Jared Anderson, Big Baby. He performed 2 weeks ago. Okay. And he's gonna. I think he even got better skills than Deontay Wilder.
But does he have the flash though?
He got the flash. Yeah. He got the flash, but he does. He moves very well. Great jab, great mixing of the punches.
What about personality?
Personality.
Does he have it to be a Tyson or to yeah? Does he have it to sell?
Yeah, right now he got that personality. I mean, he's only 21 years old.
Okay, so he still got time. He doesn't even know he is as a person.
He got a lot of time.
Right. Yeah. He's so young. He doesn't even know. All right.
Yeah, he got a lot of time. I think he's gonna develop some personality into him setting himself.
I hope so.
I think it's there for the taking.
Well, I used to love watching those heavyweight fights, even though I was never really into boxing like that. I mean, as I said, I always watched the main ones, and it was a lot of fun to watch, man. I mean, one of my favorite boxing moments wasn't even a boxing moment. It was Jim Rome and was it Hasim Rahman? Was that who it was? What on the Jim Rome show?
Hasim Rahman.
Yeah. Wasn't that?
I'm just waiting for the story because any story that starts off with Jim Rome.
No, they got it. They got into an altercation. Jim Rome was classically getting into stuff with his guests like Jim Everett and stuff like that.
Whatever happened to Jim?
Man, I don't know. He's got too big of a mouth, bro.
I've never really.
He's on. He's got a podcast and stuff now.
He does.
I mean,
yeah,
what he does.
But he's just Jim Rome.
Yeah.
So
like watching him get messed up is like watching that time Geraldo said wrestling is fake and then he got his ass whooped.
Man.
Also undisputed bout at 140, Jose Ramirez versus Josh Taylor. That's gonna be a huge fight.
You said Charles Taylor?
Josh Taylor from the UK.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Versus Jose Ramirez, Mexican American. That's gonna be a huge fight.
Nice.
All right, you guys have anything else before we tell us where we can find them?
Yeah,
man, I just appreciate you being on, man.
Yeah, bro.
This
has been fun, man.
You can find me on Twitter, Mr. Moonshine 10. You subscribe to Punch Drunk Boxing, PUNSH Drunk Boxing, YouTube, and also the Spending Saw podcast. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Spotify, iTunes, Apple, and Instagram. Yep. Punch Drunk Boxing.
Punch Drunk Boxing.
Right.
Well, look, I wanna have you on after the Olympics, bro. I wanna talk about what happened in boxing in the Olympics and see if it can give boxing as a sport some momentum to get through.
Yeah, that was always
the next year or so.
I honestly, in the Summer Olympics, that was always my favorite event.
Yeah, it's fun to watch.
Yeah,
it's fun to watch.
Hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so. I hope Cuba got a great team. So,
but don't they always? It seems like they always do.
Yeah, they got this kid named Andy Cruz that he used to. He went and let Keyshawn Davis win gold in those other Pan American games. He just couldn't. He had his number. So Andy Cruz, I want to see when he turned pro. But that Cuban team is good. That Ukrainian team is good as well.
All steroids.
And That's a wrap.
All right, so Eddie, again, man, we can't thank you enough for your time, bro. We had some technical difficulties at the beginning, but we were able to push through them. So I appreciate your patience. We appreciate you being on the show.
Yeah, thank you
and,
very much.
everybody, this has just been another episode of the Joe Schmo Sports Show. So tune in. We'll talk to you next time.
Hey, we're gonna send you some merchandise too, man. So
Yeah,
you
man.
can
Oh,
possibly
thank you. I
Wear
appreciate
it for
that,
us, man. Show it for us something.
Yeah, so we just need your shirt size and stuff.
I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
We'll get that after we stop recording.
Oh, we've already cut it.
Yeah, no, we have it.
Meanwhile,
Hey, man, look, I appreciate it, bro.
Peace.
Yeah, thanks,
bro.
Eddie.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night, bro.
All right, brother.
I appreciate it. And cut to the theme music.